Okay. Everybody, welcome to the gray area. I'm codependency Kate. And the gray area, as you all know, is where we go from black and white to gray with things. And today we are indulging in the TikTok situation that is Kendra falling in love with her psychiatrist. And I never cared about this when it first came up. I was like, oh, whatever. I saw it on my feed. And then it has turned into a shitstorm.
Mm-hmm.
And so today, I am so excited to have Abigail Gunn. Do you go by Abby? You go by Abby. Is
Yeah,
your professional name Abigail?
yeah.
Whatever.
You
Okay.
can what either one is fine. I'll
Okay.
answer.
What do people call you?
Abby.
Abby. Okay.
Abigail Gunn. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, you are a licensed therapist in New York. Is that right?
In Connecticut.
Oh, in Connecticut. Okay.
And soon to be Illinois. Yes.
Oh, okay. Big time. Okay. How long have you been a therapist?
9 years in
Yeah.
private practice.
I looked at your
Yeah, that's
LinkedIn and I was like, oh my gosh, she has experience. I'm
she
so
does.
excited to
And
talk
she
to her.
does. She's lived. Yeah, she's lived.
So I reached out to you yesterday, was today, Saturday. This,
Mhm.
I think, came about earlier this week, and it's turned into what it is. And I posted, I was like, I'm not going to post about it unless someone asks me. And someone did ask me, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to post about it. And I usually don't get, I don't know, a lot of pushback. I do, and I guess I do,
Mhm.
but ratio wise, everyone was calling my take bad, and I was like, this is crazy to me because it's so pro client, it's so pro her.
Right.
And so, anyway, you came up on my feed, and I was like, oh my gosh. I've never seen your stuff, if I'm being honest. Like I've never seen it, but I was like, you get it. Like I agree with everything you say. I've watched all your videos related to this topic. I gotta say too, I looked at your people make sense, and
Yeah.
that's like your concept or brand, whatever. And I
Yeah.
was like, I'm so with that. Like everything that you say, I am just like, oh my gosh, I love every single thing that she says about this topic. And so I'm so excited to talk to you about it today because I feel like we're obviously in the vast minority on this having this opinion. So
Yeah.
I want to know, tell me first, let's see, what do I want to know? Well, I guess I want to first say too that I feel like this, so for me on this podcast in general, I don't think I've ever had a fellow therapist on here before. When I interact with people on my page and on my podcast, it's been more like me to client. So I've like kind of contained myself in this
Mm-hmm.
box. And I feel differently today because it's like I'm talking with a fellow therapist. So not to like warn people that they may not like this or me because I'm going to be more me, but I'm going to be more me because this is like, I'm so super passionate about this. And like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. So anyway, um, will you tell me first about you and
Sure.
your background and even posting on TikTok too? How long have you been posting there?
I started in April of 2023.
Okay.
So not that long. And really, so yeah, my name's Abby. I'm a therapist, and I believe people make sense. I'm also a terrible capitalist, so sometimes I forget my shtick as I kind of talk about this. But basically, I I have a private practice, and uh, I work with people who have experienced childhood trauma. That is my specific cohort, and my interest, my research interest, and a lot of my training is around dissociation,
Ooh, cool.
which I think is super meaningful for what is happening right now.
Yeah.
Um, and in particular, I work with survivors of childhood sexual trauma, which is sort of this unspoken, profound reality that, anywhere between 1 in 3 girls, 1 in 6 boys experiences, but we don't talk about,
Right.
which, has really helped me to understand that trauma is often in the unspoken, in the experience of survivors,
So much.
rather than in the direct logical, there is not logic when you are trying to access a dissociated experience. You have a dissociated experience if there was trauma. You don't have it if there wasn't harm,
Mm,
right? So basically, I started this platform because I'm also a survivor of this particular kind of harm. And I saw that there were just no therapists addressing it. Right. And there's a lot of reasons for that, which I think in some ways we're seeing,
mm-hmm,
in the
mm-hmm.
sense that, uh, there are layers to what the public and the world wants to understand, see, and believe. And if, we don't necessarily like the report, we often find it much easier to disbelieve the reporter.
Right. Oh my
So
gosh. Yeah.
So basically, yeah, I just sort of, am like, hey, I'm 10 toes down for childhood trauma survivors, and I firmly believe that all abuse is about power and control, and that we have to look at power dynamics. And this is like an amazing, I mean, in some ways it renders me speechless. Like
I
I,
know.
right.
I know.
Yeah.
So I've had to I had a consult group yesterday. I meet with other therapists every 2 weeks to just, talk about our own stuff. And we had a group yesterday. And, like I said, I wasn't really into this at first. I was like, I'm not even going to engage with this. And then people asked me about it. Then it's become this huge thing. And I have felt myself in a similar position. Like
Hmm.
I have no words. I'm like choking on them with this situation. Last night, even my husband took my daughter. I have a 13-month-old, and he was like, "Yeah, I'll watch her tonight." And I was like, "Great, I'll get to bed early. It's 9:30." Um, and I was on my phone on TikTok watching, like responding to this stuff. And I was like,
Yes,
Kate, go to sleep. Like this is, and it's like, I've had to really be with myself in this process because I don't have a reaction to her or this situation, like emotionally, in a countertransference way at first. But my reaction is to the reaction.
yes, yes.
And so it's just, I want to talk about it today and then put it away. I don't know where you're at with it. Like, tell me about how you first saw it, your reaction,
Sure.
your engagement with it, what it's been like for you.
So, you know, I what I first saw was the response. I don't think I actually
Mm,
saw one of her videos at all. And I first saw these people, sort of reporting that she was insane
yeah.
and, reporting concern and reporting concern for the psychiatrist. And, at first glance in these things, when you look at it, right, you're like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, again, it just sort of like didn't click for me. And then I started to really kind of have a physiological reaction to the intensity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like at first, I was like, I haven't even seen a video about. I've never not seen this woman's video. Why have I seen 14 videos about this woman? Right?
Hmm.
I had this. So then I went and I was like, let me check this out. Okay, let me go. And I mean, this is going to be an unpopular opinion, but I was like, oh, she makes sense. Right? I literally, and
I
there were
had
so
that
many,
reaction too.
like, I was like, and the other thing that really struck me was again, kind of the narrative that she is this perpetrator who is attacking and trying to harm. I looked at the videos and like doxing him,
Hmm.
like what I saw was her say, please do not look for him. Please do not put his photo up. Please do not, right? And that like she said his first name. And again, I may be getting this wrong. Like
Hmm.
there's a lot of details here that people are
Right.
arguing about left and
Right.
right. But like again, like and I heard her taking accountability and responsibility for her experience and being like, it's my experience. And I then just kept seeing what people were saying. And I was like, what is that? This is not this,
Yeah.
right? I'm not
Yeah.
getting this.
Yeah.
And then I started to go, oh, dear, I know this one, right? I know this one really well. Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And that is I don't even know what to say. I don't even know what to say
because
because so much
may
of the
I?
argument that I've heard is how much it doesn't make sense. It's not coherent. Details don't match up. Like and when I'm looking at this from my clinical point of view,
You got it.
that is it. It's just like this, this makes it makes
Perfect
perfect
sense.
sense to me. So when
Yes.
I saw your video and when I saw people make sense, and when I read, saw your background, I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
she gets it. Like, and it's rare that I see somebody that, you're like,
we get
I
it.
like
No,
everything you're saying. And yeah, you get it. You get it.
because let's be clear. I mean, I think one of the things that keeps coming up, right? And again, I don't want to invalidate like any reality, right? So,
Right,
like,
right,
right? The reality is the psychiatrist, is a person of color. The reality is that, white women have harmed men of color with false accusations in like profound ways forever, right? We're going to ground that in real historical context.
right.
But everyone seems to be forgetting the historical context of the weaponization of mental health diagnoses when women say they were hurt by men, which is not made up. It is currently happening all the time in a variety of different systems and supported by providers, right? When women, again, people of color, right? Like, again, marginalized folks who are being abused say, hey, that was abusive. They go, oh, you crazy. That's crazy. And so, part of like that to me was like, we have, again, we're talking about reality in like this one way, but we have completely disconnected from the actual weaponization and medicalization of mental health as a tool of oppression
Yeah.
and discreditation, right? The only way you can invalidate the truth is to say it's crazy,
Right.
right? And that's 100% real. And like, if you take 900 steps back, we're looking at a woman in a position of vulnerability, which I'm like, guys, do we not understand how like this works? Like it, he's
That's
a
what
doctor.
yeah,
He's the doctor. Like, what's happening? Right? Like a woman in a position of vulnerability being like, hey, I was exploited emotionally, sexually. My wound was exploited, right? Because again, this is the part where everyone's lost. They're like
yeah.
trying to fill in, why is this exploitive? Well, because as therapists and clinicians and psychiatrists, we treat the wound. The wound is not named.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And right, the wound is not named in this. So like what she is saying to me is he
Mm,
knowing what has happened to her, whatever that is, right? Didn't attend to it, didn't treat it, didn't support her having boundaries around it, didn't, right? Which again is like, yeah, that's unethical, guys. That's we treat the patient in front of us. We don't treat patients.
right, right, right. Do you, okay, I think you're so well spoken also. And I want, when people say he was her psychiatrist, not her therapist, they're different.
Uh-huh.
What do you say to that?
Then he shouldn't have been practicing therapy. That's
Right,
correct.
right.
Right. And someone was like, like that, the idea that again, I'm just going to get thematic, right? She was asking for it.
Oh my God.
Like it's like so obvious, and
Yeah,
it's so not obvious to anybody because, I truly think this is like a collective dissociative event here where I'm like,
yeah,
guys, you're dissociating. Yes, the wound isn't named. You feel it. You feel it. Whatever it is. But instead of being like, yeah, I believe there is a wound here, you're like, oh no, she's crazy. It's her fault. It's object permanence. It's BBD. These are the
Oh,
worst kind of patients. I mean, the mental health, I really have just been like, well, the mental health community is in the trash.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, this is, yeah.
Well, and I
Um,
don't, it seems like I don't know. I feel like next week I'll be in a different place about this, because it's still very raw, but part of what I have been like combating in my own comments, and it's such a different experience for me because I feel like with people that comment, I can usually see like find some middle ground or really understand where they're coming from. And I hate to say it just feels like there's a blind spot. When you say this is a collective dissociative event, what do you mean by that?
so what I mean is when we're working with childhood trauma, right? People who have experienced childhood trauma, they've essentially, and especially if that trauma was, not reflected in reality, right? Nobody did anything. Like when I'm working with survivors of childhood sexual abuse, one of the things that is like completely normative and normal is that typically this happened, but nobody ever was like, yeah, it did.
Yeah.
So if you literally learn how to live unbelieved,
Hmm.
right? You don't present in the world, one, as somebody who, like, again, this is where I'm like, this like concept of delusion, right?
Yeah.
She's
Oh.
delusional. I'm like, I think she's just certain about her experience. I'm not really seeing that it's a delusion. I think she's just like not going, my God, you're right. Right? Like,
Right.
I think, and so one of the things that like people who have adapted to never being believed know how to live there. And one of the things that's sort of like super interesting to me, and this is so common and so common with survivors of all kind of trauma, but like if they aren't a perfect victim,
Yeah.
right? Then what happens is that people sort of reenact the original trauma,
Hmm.
right? So what
Yeah. Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
and again, this would be like very Jungian, right? An Jungian
Right.
interpretation of this. A very Jungian, like the collective unconscious will show you what the wound is, you
How do
know?
you, so putting that in like people terms that are non-clinical, in this
So,
situation,
yeah.
when you say the wound is not acknowledged or named,
Mhm.
and then because what you're saying, it tracks in my mind. You talked about counter transference. You had, I think, were you live when you said that or
Yes.
something?
What? What about?
When you said like there's
Oh, yeah,
some
I was on a
counter
live and it occurred.
transference.
Yeah. I was like, oh my God, there it is.
Yeah,
If we're wondering what happened to this woman, it's
right.
happening right now.
And
Like,
so, okay, I don't think people understand that.
yeah.
What do you mean when you say that? I just want to hear you put
Yeah.
it, I want to try
So
to put it in terms that people that are non-clinical understand.
so we're animals, right? You,
Uh-huh.
me, everybody here,
Mm-hmm.
which means that like animals have emotions. And emotions are meant for them to like get data about their environment,
Oh my God, that's what I say. I knew you were the right one.
right?
Okay, yeah,
Like
go ahead.
so, right? So
Yes.
it's so okay. How we explain those emotions, how we interpret those emotions, is separate, right? Is
Mm-hmm.
an entirely sort of separate thing.
Mm-hmm.
So what what I'm seeing, right? Like the idea of transference and countertransference is fancy verbiage for this person makes me feel something, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? It usually comes from like we are sensing in others what we are often not comfortable looking at in ourselves, right? Like this would be
Yeah.
Jung's, right? The so, but typically, like if or things people aren't doing what we think they're supposed to do, or right, it's going to activate fear. How we explain and
Yeah.
interpret that fear is something different. And what, like, I want everybody to understand is like the internet has decided to practice zero curiosity.
Right, right,
Right.
right.
The internet just was like, I'm making a judgment call, right? Which is actually a hallmark of fear because they're dissociating, right? Judgment, they're just being like, oh, no, bad, don't want it,
Right.
right? Well, why don't you want to get close to that?
Hmm.
What is so scary about that to you?
That is, I'm so glad you said that because today I was sitting with this is like, people want people like us, mental health professionals, to
Yeah.
say this, to say, she's crazy. This is
Uh-huh.
psychosis. This is BPD. And I was like, because that's the feedback I'm getting. I've even had like, this is the first time I've experienced like people that follow me coming for me. It's the first time
Oh,
I've
yeah.
experienced that. And they're like, your judgment, your lack of judgment here is concerning. I'm not sure I can trust you if you're not willing to say that she's in psychosis. And I had a reaction to that of like, I
Uh-huh.
don't give a fuck. Like, I don't give
Good.
your opinion about me. So that was my reaction. So I'm managing that. But then
Good
when
for
I sit
you.
when I sit
No,
with that,
really. Yeah.
when I sit with that, because I again, this reaction has me. I'm reacting to the reaction and people that are coming for me. But then when I sit with it, I'm like, these people are scared because they need to feel safe in their environment. And mental
You
health,
got it.
like mental illness and just trauma and hard traumatic things, they happen in the world. They don't just happen, they don't just present in a clinician's office. So that's what I was like sitting with, like, where are these people coming
You
from?
got it.
And then I was like, they're terrified that there's
Yeah.
people like this out in the world and that it's
Well,
not a black or white thing, and where someone like us is saying, hey, this person is not safe, stay away from them. They want us to validate that fear so that they feel safe. And that's just like an initial.
no, you got it. You got it. And I'm gonna elevate that, right? Because first of
Yeah.
all, like I want to ground this in like your fight response. So dissociation occurs in freeze state.
Okay, so for educational
Yeah.
purposes, people listening, when there is a threat, we respond with fight, flight, freeze, and fawn.
And that yeah, so freeze and fawn happen in the same place.
Yes, yeah.
Right. So if you were to look at an animal like a gazelle, there's a
Hmm.
lion in front of the gazelle. The gazelle goes, oh, first thing, it's scary. I'm going to move away from it. That's flee. Say it can't move away, right? There, that
Hmm.
is the body of the gazelle is going to turn. It's going to try, it'll try to fight,
Hmm.
right? But say it knows it's going to be overpowered,
Hmm.
right? And it will be, it's not gonna make the fight. It will do this incredibly adaptive thing. It's not a
Hmm.
decision.
Right. It's not
It is a
cognitive.
right. It's a
Yeah.
physiological response where it will essentially shut down. And
Right.
when I say shut down, I just mean we disconnect the emotions in our body, right, from a place we can't feel it because emotions are supposed to generate action. And predators like things that fight back, which again, I just want to tell that's connected to this too, to be clear.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
right, that is 100% why this has escalated so
Hmm.
far is because this woman has not stopped moving.
Right.
Which God,
Right.
why has she not stopped moving?
Mm.
How dare she? Right? So, in right, when we're dissociated, when we're disconnected from our own experience, this is a place where you can talk about like internalized perpetration, all these fancy languages, but it's like you care about what the jaguar
Perpetrator.
is
Yeah.
doing.
Yeah.
You're not caring about yourself. You're focused, you're centered on that.
Hmm. Hmm.
Right? That the gazelle is being like, is it here? Is it here? Is it here? Don't move. Right? What folks seem to fail to understand is like, I do think they're afraid of her, but they're not afraid exactly of her being mentally unwell.
Right.
They are afraid she's telling the truth because what she's saying is in safe spaces, I was sexually exploited. I was violated. I was, not seen. I was, right? That's what she's saying.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
we have a profound historical, database of evidence to say, yes, we live in a world that, wants you to believe that people with power are safe
Mm-hmm.
so that you do what they want.
Right. How does it, I mean, it feels to me like it feels weird as a therapist, like someone in this position in a way, because I almost don't want to make the argument that, so pause. Going back to that, do you think that people are terrified to look at their own safe spaces? Like, what do you think is the next
Yeah. So if we
layer
were to
of,
totally, so I think it like to go back to Freud and right, the etiology of hysteria, right, which like so much of the DSM is based on, and folks don't really fundamentally understand that like Freud's initial, literal initial, right, presentation on the etiology of hysteria was like, hey guys, these ladies, which first of all, can I just say, like the people who were like, you ladies are projecting. I
no,
was like,
I
you're
saw that.
used. Oh, yeah, yeah. But right, he was like, these ladies, are responding this way because they experienced childhood sexual abuse at the hands of people they loved and trust in safe in places that were supposed to be safe. And then he went to the people of Vienna and was like, hey, guess what I found out? And they were like, oh, bro, you cannot say that
Yeah.
because you cannot say that this is happening.
Hmm.
So he went, oh shit. Right? They're like, you're not gonna be the big guy you're gonna be if you say that. He said, well, I'll make it just, I'll make it all a mind thing then. I'll make it all like just a wish, like nothing's grounded in reality. It's a complex, it's a it's this or that. And like what people fail to understand, like when people are like, oh, it's projection. What he's actually saying, those things, those Freudian defense mechanisms are all dissociative.
Yeah.
And like you and I are sitting here being like, she's a real fucking person, guys. Hey, she's a person. She's a real person. And
Real
they're like,
person.
you're projecting. God, so this, I forgot what the question, but I think part of this is like, again, I'm looking at this being like, uh, what people are really afraid of is that the world is unsafe. The
Yeah.
world is unsafe.
Yeah.
And so what they want to do is be like, no, this is a you problem, not a
Hmm.
person, not a worldwide problem. Like people love to be like, oh, trauma damages people, trauma breaks people, trauma is terrible. Let's be clear. In the animal kingdom, animals that survive situations that would have killed them are seen as adaptive,
Hmm.
right? And Darwin would have called them survival of the fittest. Now,
Hmm.
why we don't, use that same language to describe trauma survivors, I think has everything to do with why we would not like incredibly resilient, strong people to know they are incredibly resilient and strong. And
Hmm.
so part of this to me is like the collective silencing
Hmm.
of reality to be like, no, power is good,
Hmm.
right? Men with power are good because that just feels better to everybody. It'd be great. You want a good parent.
Yeah. So I don't know if you know this. I don't know how familiar you are with what I've been posting or what my niche is, but I talk a lot about estrangement. And
Mm-hmm.
my stance is that parents 100% have the power. Parents are 1000% responsible for everything. And so in estrangement, especially, like they don't get that. They don't there's very much like, well, there's two sides to a story. There's very much like you don't know the situation. And I've seen just there's just so many parallels between what I
Mm-hmm.
post and then in this situation. Just in terms of power and people just that's my daily fight on my
Yeah.
page is like the power that parents have, the power that therapists have, and just the incredible differential and vulnerability of this other party. Like it's incredible vulnerability and responsibility on the provider, on the parent, the person in power to have these boundaries and to know the separation and to I don't just to deal with it.
Yes.
Um,
I mean, this was why I was so excited to talk to you because I knew that you would understand that like children who are estranged from their parents have had to do something that is it is against everything they want to do.
mhm, yeah.
And like in order for somebody to do that, there had to be such a degree of harm. And again, people are like, oh, intentionality matters. Yeah, we're not talking about a court of law,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like we're
That's
literally being like, hey, if you hit your kid, it hurts them, right? That's harm. And like you're a lot bigger and stronger, so it's going to be a lot different
mhm,
than if they hit you. Sorry,
mhm.
right? And like who this is where I just yeah, I was like I knew you would get it because you work with people who have had to choose themselves when that is the last thing they would ever want to do,
The
you
last
know?
thing they would ever want to do. It goes, and going back to what you said at the beginning, how trauma is in the unspoken.
Yes.
That is so, I want to hear all your thoughts on that. And I just like, I'm so, I'm overwhelmed too by the amount of mental health professionals that don't share this perspective. And I just, because it just goes so against like ethics and just internally, like, how do you not believe people? How are you a mental health person and you don't believe people? When I was a student, I mean, even I started my, well, when I was a student or intern and I was seeing clients, like there's a such a benefit to being green and to being new because you are inherently curious, I think.
Yes.
And
Yes.
and this is why I was so drawn to you too. Every single person I've ever met, everything makes sense. Like literally
Hmm.
everything makes sense. I say that 10 times a session with everybody. It's like this makes sense. This makes sense. This
Right.
makes sense. And I love that you say, diagnose harm, not the person,
Yep.
because that is so important, especially in this situation. But um yeah, I don't know. What's your opinion about other mental health professionals that have made
Being
video?
abusive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're saying
Yeah.
that you said it. You
Yeah.
said it.
So I mean, I think one of the things, like one of my favorite books, and people will be like, "What books do you recommend, Abby?" I'm like, I recommend Trauma and Recovery by Dr. Judith Herman. Right?
Uh-huh.
That is the number one book that I'm like, just read that book, guys. If you
Trauma
want to
and
know,
recovery.
yes, let me show it. I have it here because I literally I am a Judith Herman Stan account. Like this is what it basically says is trauma and recovery, the aftermath of violence from domestic abuse to political terror. And what I
Ooh.
would like people to think about, and what this book does an incredibly good job about, is that the dynamics of harm and the actions of perpetrators of harm and the drama triangle, right?
Yeah.
Bystander, rescuer, victim, perpetrator.
Mm-hmm.
That was a square, but you know what I mean. I don't think bystanders in that, but right, like this is the same dynamic whether it is in a home,
Mm-hmm.
a community,
Mm-hmm.
an institution, a organization, right? A country, like it's it. And so when you really start to understand that all abuse is about power and control, right? You
Mm-hmm.
can have somebody who's a jerk, but they cannot be abusive if they do not have the power,
Exactly.
which
The position. That's exactly
the
right.
and so this to me is like this the mental health community's egoic. I might get mad here if that's one thing. I was like, I shout a lot,
I
I'm
love
like,
it.
right. I just like,
I
I'm
love
accent,
it.
I lived a lot of my life in freeze. You get out of
Yeah.
freeze the way you got in. You got to go through fight. So activating fight, right,
Mhm.
helps me to stay right in the present, grounded, and not abandon
Totally.
myself or the
Love it.
reality I know is real. So, like what is literally happening here is um they are victimizing her and
They
they do
are.
not, they are exploiting her, like literally exploiting her, monetizing her suffering, exploiting her, right? And one could argue that we are too, right? But at least
Mhm.
we're here being like, listen, guys,
Well,
you know,
it's in
but
protection of her. It's for her.
it is, but also like what everybody forgets is like capitalism is exploitive, guys. The mental health system in America is part of capitalism. We are pay for serve, right? It's part of it. These are
Hmm.
unconscious things that we don't fully understand, where we are not sort of orienting to her experience. Our experience is tied up in her experience.
Hmm.
right? But like,
Yes. And that's what I wanted to hear you say more of is when people have a reaction to her, when people like obsessed with this situation.
they're
What is
scared.
happening there?
Okay. So this is like again, so I work with a lot of people who recover their memories of childhood sexual abuse, which is actually a pretty relatively common experience. About 30% of people have some degree of forgetting and remembering.
Hmm.
And that's the nature of betrayal trauma. It's the nature of attachments. It's the nature of like how freeze works and fawn and, that particular kind of harm, whatever. But one of the things that's really fascinating is that when people recover their memories, right? Which really isn't like, again, they just sort of go, oh my God, this happened to me. And I'm going to say it out loud.
Hmm.
The majority of the response in the world is, no, it didn't. You're crazy,
Hmm.
right? Because it's scary. People don't want it to be true.
Hmm.
People don't want to acknowledge that they're complicit. This is where we're also, right? People, are afraid of going against power structures. They're afraid of standing out. They're afraid of people who do something different. Like, I think in many ways, what's happening here is like there is a profound like rejection of the reality that, men with power can be exploitive. And again, like not in the sense of they're like, oh, well, he didn't, it's like, well, he didn't hit her. Coercive control is still, right? Exploitation, these are all very thematic, but it's also, people don't want to face their own exploitation.
Hmm.
I think in many ways. They don't want to face their own experiences of childhood harm and childhood trauma. And so we like to look at people, who are kind of just standing in truth, whatever that is, and be like, that's crazy. Why would you do that? And that's another thing I want to kind of like, there is no benefit to this woman. I mean, she's
Hmm.
she's doing a good job again of adapting to it to make it work for her. But like people don't say
Yeah.
people who tell the truth and are punished for it do not
Benefit.
which again when you're
Right.
trying to figure out who is the abuser, it's the person who benefits,
Right. Right.
right? Benefits from her silence, benefits. I feel like I went off the rails there, but like I feel like I'm dissociating from people's
Yeah.
dissociation here and
No,
just being like
literally.
literally
Literally.
literally
Yeah. I've seen comments that are like, uh, just her contradictions and her lies, and it's just I don't even know. I don't
so
even know what to say.
so I remember the question, which was the mental health community.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what I want to say is like people who were never afforded or had the privilege of boundaries in childhood, which is like all childhood trauma survivors, regardless of the trauma,
Right. Right.
right? Like, like what is so horrific to me is truly the entitlement, both the mental health community and every single person on the internet has decided they're entitled to every single detail of their story, of her story, to decide if it is true.
Hmm.
That's not how truth works. Like the truth, one, does not require belief, right? It doesn't. It just is. The truth does not require belief. It does not require mutual agreement. It does
Yeah.
not. It stands outside of you and outside of me.
Hmm.
And the fact that people have like literally invaded this woman's experience, her life. I mean, invaded, called the police, right? Like,
Hmm.
again, they're like, she didn't get fired from her job. That's a lie. I think the woman is trying to protect herself, knowing that like the people she worked for would try to protect themselves from this, right? Again, like there are things here where I'm like, you know, guys, like, can you not see that she is describing the very thing in a sense that you are doing? He diagnosed her without telling her about it or her consent. What is how that if I mean I would say that the 9,000 bad therapists who are doing that, right? Again, are validating that, yes, that happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's how truth actually works.
What do you say to the psychosis piece? When people say, I think I've seen you address this, but the spiritual psychosis piece.
Okay. First of all, I can get on. I'm going to get on platform right now.
Please
First of
go.
all, there is an assumption, one, that they know this woman's experience. One thing I want to say, and again, I don't know, but I'm going to ground this in reality, is that she talks about her sobriety and how she became sober. And I don't know if anybody's clear on this, but if you get sober through a 12-step program, they actually encourage you to talk to your higher power and talk to God.
Right.
Right. So, like, spirituality and sobriety often go very much together. Second, this whole thing about like the Pisces thing, people like astrology.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Carl Jung liked astrology, right? He actually spoke it. It's about archetypes. She didn't go, right? He's a Pisces. And so she just was like, yeah, this is a validation of the things that I am experiencing, right? In this archetype, like reality, whatever. It's how people make sense of things. It's fine. That's psychotic. There are
Mm-hmm.
apps for astrology. I do. Sorry, I can get really. But then the second thing is the idea that it is psychosis. The reason they are saying this is because they don't get it.
I
We're
know.
just yes.
Explain what psychosis is. I saw a video that you had posted talking about it, and I was like, people need your expertise to really understand what this is, because I think people think psychosis, psychotic, and it's again something far away from them, something like, what's the word? Just like it could never happen to them, like it's
Mhm.
this far-fetched thing that's far away from them, that word
Yeah,
psychosis. And so tell me, I love the way you described it. Tell people what psychosis is.
it's big, 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 big dissociation.
Yeah.
That's it.
And tell people, so for the freeze response is
Yeah.
dissociation. Breaking this down. So what does this look like day to day? Dissociation look like day to day?
You're entirely in your head.
Okay. So like, would you say it's when when you're driving home from something and you got home but you don't remember actually
Yeah,
driving
that's
home because you're in your
dissociated.
head? Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's dissociated. So, like, everybody dissociates, to be clear.
Hmm.
Everybody dissociates. What you see in people who enter psychotics, right, get a diagnosis of psychosis, is typically they are experiencing terror in the body,
Hmm.
and nobody is addressing that. So they are trying to explain it to people so that they can understand it and get somebody to believe them. But if we're talking about, like, again, and there's a real connection between like trauma and psychosis.
Hmm.
And I think the video I was saying, like, anybody who actually does counseling knows, or therapy, or like has any experience, but knows when you have somebody who is psychotic in front of you, you counsel them within the delusion because it de-escalates people, right? To be able to be believed.
Hmm.
And typically every single quote unquote delusion has a theme of reality. Like, it comes from reality. It might
Hmm.
not like be literal, but that's everybody. Like, everybody being like, is it literal? Like, what are we talking about? This concept of like, someone was like, she said she's not in our reality. She's not. Like, you don't know her reality. She is not living your life. That is what she is saying, and you are not living hers, and you were not there. So what is that? Like, the idea that there is some universal,
Reality.
I mean, reality is full of many realities walking around. That's why when we go, hey, my stomach hurts, right? Somebody doesn't go, no, it doesn't. I mean, they do, but right, we would have sort of the general idea to be like, oh, right, I can't know that because it's not my stomach.
Right. Well, and
What?
that's what I deal with a lot with in this estrangement world
Yes.
from estranged parents, is this like knowing they have about their child. They perceive like I know my child
Hmm.
better than they know themselves. This enmeshment. That's like family
That's
systems language, but what
Yep.
you're saying is like what I'm hearing too is like based in enmeshment, that everybody thinks because there are some details that you might cognitively understand or think you understand it, and that you can speak on it because you think you understand it. But there's so many more, like when you say realities, like people's lived experience and their perspective, uh, it's so different.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I mean,
what I deal with a lot is this helping people
yes.
detach and understand that they don't know someone else's reality. If even if it's your child, you cannot dictate what they're feeling, what they're thinking, what their experience is. And that's anyway, so that's just a lot of the work that I have to do with people is this separation. And that's what's playing out here. Part of what's playing out here is
Oh,
everybody's like enmeshment with this person and experience and not being able to separate their own from hers.
yeah,
And yeah.
100%. And I think in many ways, like there's this concept, right, of like internalized perpetration,
Yeah, I
which
know. I heard you say that earlier, and I was like, "Oh God, here we go. Say
Lord,
it. Talk about."
oh. So basically, like, one of the ways that we negotiate living in an unsafe world is to normalize unsafe actions,
Mhm.
right? Like identification with the oppressor, identification with the perpetrator is super common when you're working with power dynamics because it's a lot safer to fawn.
Pause. Okay.
Yeah.
I get this question a lot. I'm relating this back to my audience right now, but
Yeah.
I get a lot of questions about, can you talk about the sibling that stayed with the parent? Like when there's estrangement, there's a sibling that's estranged, and then there's a sibling that's super close with the parent. And a lot of times the siblings have issues because the sibling close to the parent really identifies with the parent and is like,
Hmm.
how could you treat mom this way? They take things very personally. If the kid does it to the mom, then the kid's doing it to the sibling, all this
Hmm.
stuff. And
Yep.
what you're saying is that for people that feel unsafe in general, it's easier. This is the survival mechanism to identify
Yeah.
with the parent, right? Is
Yeah.
that from an
Well, and
intrapsychic point of view, from like a, yeah.
so, but I think you have to, one has to ground it in functionality. So, I mean, like birth order, all this stuff matters, but like people, all but human behavior is functional, right?
Hmm.
All animal behavior is functional, all human behavior is
Like it has
functional.
a function
Yeah.
in the world. Like
And it's
it,
all about survival and safety and protection and right. And it's like not conscious.
yeah,
There aren't choices, right? Our survival isn't a choice. What we eat for dinner is a choice. That we eat is like a drive. That's the same kind of place that the emotions kind of drive this behavior comes from there, right?
hmm,
So like if you have multiple people in the family, right? Typically what you find is that different kids get their needs met in different ways. They adapt. So a lot of times when you have a kid who found that like identifying and sort of protecting the abusive person actually got them safety, right? Then they're going to do that
right,
until it doesn't, and because they're
right,
getting their needs met. The
right,
problem for kids, right, who don't is like that just they couldn't do it for whatever reason, it just didn't work. And like there's an argument that like, scapegoat folks are the kind of bravest,
hmm,
right? Most sort of like sturdy family member. Like they can withstand it. And one thing I would say, I think a lot about like in this experience is, I'm just like looking at this woman being like, God, they're so mad that she doesn't really care.
right,
And like
right,
anybody who works with like people who have survived like remarkable trauma, right? People who have like figured out, right? You have to be a little bit delusional. And again, I
yeah,
don't mean delusional like, right? But you have to be like, well, I don't know what's out there, but it's got to be better than this, right? Like
yeah, right. You have to
that's
believe in something that you can't.
something greater than
Yes,
yourself,
yeah,
something more meaningful than yourself, which again, I think is part of this where people are like, she's crazy, it's spiritual psychosis, she's an oracle. First of all, she never said she was an oracle. Her AI said she was an oracle. And I don't know if anybody talks, has conversation, uses AI or whatever, but like,
everybody does.
doesn't
Everybody
everybody,
does.
And
Yes.
doesn't everybody's AI have a name?
I think so.
I mean, like, I don't know, like within my friend group, like everybody, there was a time when there was like a thing about like, what does your AI want to call itself? And you asked it and it gave itself a name. And everybody was like, no, it has a name. Right. Or like,
Yeah.
I made this joke where something again about there was something in TikTok where they're like, what would your AI call you? Mine called me Solace Fire. Okay. Which is like fucking unhinged. I wasn't like, I am Solace Fire. I did not hear her doing that. Right.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
the thing that just gets me is like what I hear her doing is using AI in a way that a lot of trauma survivors do and a lot of people do, which is about reality checking.
Yeah,
And one
right.
thing I want to say to everybody on this internet, right? One, her psychiatrist knew what her childhood trauma was. Her AI does too. You don't. So you are trying to fill something in and assume all kinds of different things, but you don't know what this is all grounded in. And let
Mm.
me tell you, it has to be grounded in something, which is because everybody's freaking out, which means there is something they're freaking out about in it. It isn't just this woman.
Mhm.
Like she's just a person.
Right. Wait, okay. So here's the where I want to go into too is you saying uh she's just a person. There's definitely something real here that's happened. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
When you say it's grounded in something.
So, you know, good. I think like when people talk about like the truth repeats,
Hmm.
the truth is cyclical. If you want to know what happened to somebody, see what you want to do to them.
Okay. Okay, yeah.
Right. And like this is actually how therapists use countertransference.
Hmm.
But if you are in the room with somebody and you find yourself, right, wanting to insert yourself into the room, which is what we're hearing happened again, whether people want to debate about whether that's okay or not okay, like, I don't care. Like, this was about this, her therapy was about him, and that's not what it's supposed to be.
Hmm.
Um, but like if you find that happening, one of the things as a therapist you're supposed to be able to do is you clinically bring that in the room and you talk about it in a way of being like, okay, this is happening, which means like I know this is about what has happened to you. And I want to validate that. Right. And I want us to try to figure out what is the corrective emotional experience.
Hmm. So
Right.
for example, in this situation,
Yeah.
hypothetically,
Yeah.
you're saying that her bringing her romantic feelings into a situation, that is the professional's duty to identify that as being part of a bigger story.
Yeah. To root it in her own experience.
Right.
Yes.
Her bigger story. But to bring
Yes.
it up, like to
Yeah, you
bring
got to
it up.
name it because it's coming from trauma, which is unnamed and right dissociated. So the point is you name it so it can be processed and integrated.
Yes.
And he didn't do that because he doesn't know how to do therapy.
Right.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
Right. What I hear a lot of people saying is
Uh-huh.
like, it's very normal for people to experience transference with their therapist. This is very
Hmm.
normal. She is taking it further by sexually harassing him and like that. So, my reaction to that is again, that is a result of the lack of boundaries. If that's true,
Yeah.
that is a result of the lack of boundaries put in place by him. Like, that's the harm of not having boundaries. That's the harm of not naming things as a mental health professional. If that's true, like, because I don't even think I obviously don't agree with that conceptualization of this whatsoever. Is it people that just see, they don't understand the clinician's responsibility? Because
They have no idea.
yeah,
I mean, they literally like this poor man.
yeah,
I'm like, again, let's just slow this down. But people don't understand like what therapists do. They think you just go in and you talk about your feelings. No, 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 no.
yeah.
You
It's so big.
reparent the past.
Right.
So when you have childhood trauma and a childhood trauma survivor comes into your office, you have the expectation that they will not know what happened to them was wrong.
Right.
So you are going to help them by showing them the appropriate boundaries. No, right? This is, and again, people are like, he set boundaries. No, no, he didn't.
No, he didn't.
Like and again, as somebody who works with a lot of, like I've had wild things happen in the room,
Mm-hmm.
right? We do not remain silent around them. That's exactly what happened
Mm-hmm.
when they were children, right?
Mm-hmm.
They did things and people were like, it's your fault, you're bad. What are you doing? They're doing things they learned.
Mm-hmm.
Like what he was supposed to do in a therapeutic sense was to go, hey, hey, like, thank you for telling me. Like, I'm really great. I really am so glad to know this because it really helps me to understand, like, what has happened to you in your life and validate it. And I want us to look at this from a place of being like, I know it's about me and I'm the safe person, right? I am. I'm going to be safe with these feelings.
Mm-hmm.
But let's center this around what is happening for you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The reason she feels exploited is because he let her love him.
Right.
Which again, if you're looking at childhood trauma, you're trying. This is one of those horrible things that like kids, people report all the time. He didn't stop me, so it must be my
Right.
fault.
Right. 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 Right.
It
Right.
was never your fault, honey. You're just a kid, and you love the people you loved. It's not your fault that they hurt you. It's not your fault that they didn't meet you in that. It's not their fault that they used your love for their gain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the clinical work in the room.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, folks are really just, not willing to look at that.
Mm-hmm. This brings to mind to a comment I got, and I get this a lot in the estrangement conversation from parents in general, is like, it's not someone else's job to validate your experience for you. To me, I'm like, what the, like, what? I
Bros.
had someone really comment on this video I made about the situation that was like, I've had a similar experience with I don't know if it was with a mental health professional, but she was like, and then I went to therapy and realized that I needed to validate it for myself. And I was like, okay, so you went to a safe space with someone that
Yeah.
contained that for you. Like you didn't do that
So
on your own. So tell me because I hear that too, again, from parents that say, at some point you learn to grow up and validate your own experience.
where did it again? I think this is where people get confused about what reality is.
Mm-hmm.
Like, basically, it is super normal for all of us to want to agree that this is a cup,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, reality checking, when people talk about validating your experience, no, what people are asking is like, am I real?
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at child development, there's a reason that little kids, I have two of them, right? And they are why? What is that? What is,
Yeah.
right? But part of the questions they ask, like, and again, they'll be like, is that blue? Is that red? Is that they are reality checking their experience. And the reason they're reality checking it is because that's how people develop trust in themselves to be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, like this is what this is. That's how we learn what things are.
Right.
So when people are hurt and everybody goes, no, you weren't, and they are hurting
Mm-hmm.
in reality, in their body, because let's be clear, emotional pain is physical pain.
Mm-hmm.
When they are suffering the consequences of abuse, which is, again, not conceptual, it's not mental, it is literal, because abuse is about power and control. And none of that is validated. Like, we're literally ignore like we're not validating somebody's experience. We're literally ignoring reality. Like that, they're not
Yeah.
asking for people to be like, agree with me. They're
Mm-hmm.
asking for people to be like, you are real. That's what Kendra is asking for us to do, is to be
Mm-hmm.
like, hello, I am a real human being,
Mm-hmm.
right? In no way is she's trying to be like, agree with me, he is the perpetrator. I didn't hear that. That
Mm-hmm.
she's using that language to describe her own experience, but she
Mm-hmm.
is not being like, get this guy,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, she's not. She's not.
At all. Which
She's
again,
not.
I think people are having a hard time with some of the with the duality she's holding of being like, he is both kind and also caused harm, which again is actually very mature.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but I digress. Um, but people don't understand that if they're dissociated and just trying to find out who's the bad guy and
Mm-hmm.
what do we do. So like like what I think people don't understand is like everybody needs reality checking. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's not actually like clinically wrong. That's like, you could call it, it's not mental health. It's literally just being like, hey, do you see that I am real? And somebody going, yes, I do. And I believe that you are real. And so I don't believe, I can know everything that happened to you, but I believe that you are the sum of it.
Mm-hmm.
And that you make sense, which is why but I really sort of sit with a lot, you know, safety in this world is a shared reality. It is the agreement that we're all real, right? Like, I can't be safe with you if you don't agree that I am a real person and that if I say I'm hurt, it hurts.
Oh, that's
Um,
so big. I talk to people, I do so I'm an LMFT and so I do couple stuff, marriage stuff too.
mm,
And
mhm,
shared reality, we hear this so much with men in particular,
yeah,
not to general, only say that that's valid there, but in a lot of heterosexual marriages, women having emotional experiences, men saying no, like their defensiveness or just anything other than, oh my gosh, tell me more. Oh my gosh, I hear you. That's real for you. Let me tend to that. Like anything they experience anything other than that. So I love you saying safety is shared reality. Safety is that this is real. This is
yeah,
real.
you are real. Like, whatever, I don't have to believe all your thoughts, but I believe
Right.
you are real. And I think one of the things that, like, again, like, I really love a historical context. I love to talk about systems and this and that.
Oh
But
yeah.
like, whether it's racism, whether it's the patriarchy, like whatever it is, the entire premise of that is that someone is more real than somebody else.
Hmm. Real as in
Valid, real. So like,
valid. Yeah.
we are like, part of where everybody's like, what do you mean? How could you be saying this about the psychiatrist? He didn't do anything wrong. I'm like, so this is why I want you to understand that this is like literally part of, an ism, right?
Yeah.
Because this man has had to say nothing, and you have come in and validated his experience in ways that are extraordinary. Like, you have made him benevolent in every, right,
Yeah.
you have made him a victim, you have made him, and again, like, that's separate from whether or not believe he is a perpetrator, which again is
Hmm.
a, right, but like, you have literally just been like, he is more real than she is. Well, let's look at that internalized patriarchal stuff, my friends. Would you like to?
Ooh, yeah.
Probably not. And that
Probably
is
not.
like, I will say DSM folks, right? The DSM sort of came to exist around, very, very similar and larger moments in the women's movement. So I just want to be clear that like, these things are not coincidental. That's not to negate it. It's just to be like, yo, take the historic, like, it makes sense, okay? Like, let it
Makes
make sense.
sense.
People make sense. The world makes sense. Like, stop trying to look at these data points, you dissociated populace, and like, get into your body and be like, wow, huh, some reality isn't up for debate.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
people are human. Yeah.
what engagement are you getting with this stuff? Like your
Oh my
videos?
God. Well, so it's funny because, again, I think one of the things that I have had to master in order to be a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, an advocate for people who've experienced this, and a therapist, right? Is I've had to master my fight response.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things people don't like about Kendra is that she, again, is, whether you want to hear it or not, a woman who is accessing her anger in a way that is helping her to stay in her experience.
Hmm.
You can call it delusional, you can call it, but like, whatever's happening is like, she's not leaving her experience to get into somebody else's, okay?
Hmm. Hmm.
There is an I firmly in that. So one of the things, like with me, I find that, you know, people are really, there's a lot of like, are you actually a therapist? Right? How
Mm.
are you? And I'm like, that's fascinating that you're saying that because yes, I am. And like you could check that in reality,
Right.
but like you want to discredit this so badly, you're going to just throw in the suggestion I might not be,
Yeah.
right? Like, so there's some, I'm like, it was Googleable. So, first of all,
Right.
yes. But like, I've gotten a lot of that. There was a couple people who were like, you're just like her. Because, oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Because there was a moment where I was like, no, 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 someone was like, you need to do like, show, this whole thing about, which again, this actually was coming from a generous and lovely place, which we had a discourse. So I was like, thank you so much for helping me activate my fight so I could get out there on behalf of, right. But, someone said like, you should be making content about signs and symptoms of mental health
oh yeah,
crises.
I saw that. Yeah. I
Right.
saw
And I was
that.
like, no, because the reality is that no one has ever,
I
ever,
loved that
ever,
video. I loved that video.
ever,
By the way.
right, de-escalated a situation by going, hey, you're
Calm down.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
calm down. You're crazy. We have never in the history,
Yeah.
right? We
Uh-huh.
de-escalate by believing people. And so, I was like, I think you should believe her. And someone was like, you're just like her. And it was like, oh, I'm a woman, not performing womanness on the internet. I'm really certain about what I'm saying. I
Yeah.
do have the receipts to back it up. Like one of the things I say to people a lot is like, you don't, as a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, start talking about being a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and a therapist without a whole bunch of, documentation backing you up because people will project and
Yeah.
they will dissociate and they will, right? So like I'm cool with that. I get what they're doing. Um but one of the things I see a lot, and again, but people will be like, you said this. And I'm like, no, I'm not quite sure how you took that from what I was saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? But it has everything to do with reacting from the feeling of what I was saying. So they couldn't read the content, which is again dissociative.
Okay, so dissociative is, and I'm not, I agree. I love every single thing you're saying. I feel like I'm trying to come from my audience of non-clinical people. That's why I'm asking you so many clarifying questions
Please.
and bringing this. But dissociation is being disconnected from the present, from your emotional reality, because it's so outside of your window of tolerance that,
Yes. So, yeah, but it's more like people, and again, I just want to be clear like most people have some degree of childhood trauma because the
uh-huh.
world is an unsafe place. So, like, that most people, dissociate. It's kind of normal,
You're
right?
saying
But
something big here. I don't know if people will like it.
they're
Yeah,
not going to like it, which is why they don't like her. What are
right.
they dissociating from, right? Well, she's got to be crazy. I can't, it's not safe to believe myself, right? Like it would all blow up. People would come after me. People would, yeah, this is, what is that one called? Uh, what is the one where you think something's going to happen and it does? You know what I'm talking about? There's like a clinical term for it.
Uh, I mean, self-fulfilling prophecy comes to mind,
Yes,
but
that
yeah,
one. Yes,
yeah,
right. But again, people are like, see, the thing I'm scared of is real. And it's
yeah,
like, yeah, because you're you're doing it, friends.
yeah.
But so basically, right, like people, right, everybody dissociates to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
So the issue with what it is when people feel something in their body, and again, it's going to be fear every time. Dissociation is only a product of fear. It's not a product of anger,
Mm-hmm.
right? Anger brings you into your body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Dissociation takes you out of it. The problem is when you're kind of in between, vacillating, and that's
Mm-hmm.
where a lot of harm to kids can actually happen.
Yeah,
But
right.
so what happens is people go, oh, something scary, something scary. And so then they are like, I have to make a judgment call on this. It's
I
no longer, I can't respond to it humanly. I have to respond to it entirely intellectually,
yeah. Uh-huh.
which is why we have the entire, well, Vyvanse. She said she was on Vyvanse and
Her
she said it was a
pupils. are
The
dilated.
pupils.
Wait, I've got okay. I think I saw a video where you've gotten that comment.
Oh
Have
my
you?
God, there's so many.
I've
There's
gotten that
so
comment. I got that comment. I get it a lot, but the eyes tell me everything I need to know. And I was like, I was pregnant when I got that for the first time. And I was like, okay,
hmm
wow, okay. Just that in and of itself it kills me.
I mean, it truly, like, again, there are a couple, like, the certainty of response. Like, there have been so many
Yeah,
videos of, like, this woman is a predator.
yeah,
And I'm like, she is the predator. I'm like, you guys, it's a Yelp review.
yeah, right.
Like, and it's like, I mean, again, you're responding very strongly to some of the language she uses, speaking about her own experience. But like, we are allowed to talk about our providers.
Yeah, right.
I mean, and if we weren't, well, that's how harm keeps happening,
Continues.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's harm occurs in silence. It requires isolation, right? All abuse requires isolation and silencing. And when you were saying like you're feeling choked,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because that's what's happening. Reality is like there's the silence of harm here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you can feel it. Like I just feel like I woke up and I'm like, right. I was really worried this was the world, and I had a lot of
I
data that
know.
supported it. And then this was just like shit.
I
But
know.
again, it's good to know and to feel, and I hope like people see this like this is not personal. This isn't about Kendra. This is like what what is happening to her has happened to so many people that I
Yeah.
work with and know, and right. So it's not
Mm-hmm.
personal. It's about what people's it's about other people's association. It's not actually about yours. um
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and I hope that helps. I actually hope that that connects people who have been in her experience. I
Yeah.
hope, because actually that's power to be able to withstand what is happening to her. And everybody who's like, she's psychotic, I'm trying to get her help. I'm like, no, no, bro, that's what kills people in real
Mm-hmm.
life, is
Yeah.
what you're doing, not what she's doing, what you're doing.
What you're doing. You
Yeah.
said the first video I saw of yours was saying how this is how witches got burned.
Yep.
And I was like, oh man,
It
it's
is.
so true.
Yep. Just because she's not doing it the way you think she should doesn't mean she's wrong, right? Just because she knows something or is different from you or is able to do something you couldn't or are afraid to do does not mean she's crazy,
Mm-hmm.
right? Courage requires people to act despite their fear. And in order to do that, you have to practice a little bit of delusion, but
Mm-hmm.
you do it on behalf of something that is greater than yourself. That is, every noble act in the history of the world is based on that.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing, again, whether you agree or don't agree, what she is doing and how she is standing in this is courageous.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree. So
So,
what do you think is going to happen? Like, how do you see this just from you, just in your opinion, speculating? What happens
oh,
now?
I think the world is about to get a reality check.
In what way?
Well, because I think at some point Kendra is going to make this make sense. Uh, like everybody's like, we don't have all the information. That's right. I think at some point we will, when she
Hmm.
is safe and ready and empowered to share, right? And then I think the world is going to go, whoops.
Does this bring up anything similar to you in your mind, just in terms of public spectacle and anything? Does anything come to mind in this way? Like that this situation is
I
similar to
mean, what
anything else?
doesn't?
I
What is
know.
there, right? Like, I mean, like the Diddy trial, Amber Heard, Johnny Depp.
Amber Heard,
Everyone's like,
Johnny Depp. Oh my gosh.
I love that when people are like, so you don't believe, she's the abuser? And I'm like, so the older man with far more money, power, and social capital is the victim? Abuse is about power and control. You don't have to like her. You might think that she's, unkind or harmful, but that isn't, you cannot abuse people without power. Okay. That's
Yeah.
just how it works.
Hmm.
And coercive control, which is, now coming into, right, our legal definitions of domestic violence, is something people don't even understand about. And that's part of what Kendra's talking about, is coercive
Yeah,
control,
it
which if,
is.
right, if folks don't understand, like a therapist, can you coerce a patient without ever touching them? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That's like
Like,
it's honestly, I've worked with domestic violence victims. That's what they say is like the worst part is not the physical abuse. It's not the explicit, concrete physical things. It's the emotional abuse, the psychological abuse, those components of it that are the most damaging to their reality and their sense of self and their trust and their and everything. That is why it is so harmful and you can't it's so hard. I don't know. I guess people just don't understand the nature of when you say trauma is in the unspoken, that is period, done. That's what happened here. That's
the, to me, there was this moment where she's talking about describing, and again, I don't want to, right? But she's talking about a moment where she felt she shared more for him, not occurring about how it would make her feel. And she describes feeling gross, right? This is a hallmark of coercive control. It is, I did it. I betrayed myself
mhm,
because I didn't even know I was in the room. It was all about him.
mhm, mhm,
That is
mhm, mhm.
and Judith Herman Trauma and Recovery talks about, if you want total control of people, you have to make them betray themselves. You
Right.
have to make them complicit in their own harm. And that is what we are also reenacting here, because we are going, well, it's all her fault.
Mhm.
And that's why people don't come forward.
Right.
Because, and again, if you want to look at the family court system, you want to look at all these things, domestic violence, right? Like, I don't know what people think world we live in or what, but like, you come forward, you will be punished by, right? That's how this works in some way, shape, or form. And again, like the idea that she is the one punishing him by just saying what he did, literally. Again, I think that's part of the nuance. Like, they're like, he didn't do anything. I'm like, right, she's not making anything up. She is literally directly reporting clearly what he did. She's not using hyperbole. She's not doing anything. She is actually,
When people say, but she's saying he wanted this from her. She's saying he is in love with her and he wants this. Like I saw videos of so I'm curious on your response to
yeah.
that. Is I saw a video of someone had recorded her live and the someone had asked her if she thinks that he's watching her
Mhm,
stuff. She was like, "Oh yeah, I'm sure he's watching everything and loving it." And
mhm.
that's what I'm getting pushback on in my stuff is so what do you say to that when someone says that? Like, well, we
Well,
agree with her position, we agree with that this is her experience. What we don't agree with is her interpretation of his behavior.
uh, well, people who engage relationally around power and control are egoic. She reported that he talked about himself in all of the sessions, right? He talked about his accomplishments, his this, his that, right? Like he's egoic. Like, again, if you look at domestic violence where people will be like, hey, obviously this person doesn't like you, they don't talk, right? Whatever. Like, people who engage in abuse want to be at the center of things.
Hmm.
Like, they they are interested. And many abusive people, right, have sort of like, whatever, but they're experiencing all attention is good attention, right? Whether it's
Mhm.
bad or good, but they're, attention, and attention is about connection and importance. And right, like there is a real, so like the idea of like, people are being like, well, we don't, this is what I love. They're like, you don't know what he's doing. I'm like, well, she might probably knows better than the rest of us.
Right.
Like, and again, I think she's a smart woman.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
people don't like that either. So, like, again, I'm not saying like, her certainty may be off putting. I think she's sharing her opinion,
Mhm.
right? That's what she thinks he's
Mhm.
doing. I don't think
Mhm.
she's being like, he is doing, again, I think there's enough reality in her for her to be clearly like,
Well, yeah, because this went over years. Years.
yes, yeah, they know each other.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and let me tell you something about childhood trauma survivors. They are able, and again, by her report, I don't know what it is, but like she said that. So I'm just validating that fact.
Yeah.
One of the things that people who experience childhood trauma learn how to do, if they're kind of more fawny than they are, uh, you know, is they pay real close attention. They become experts on the subjects of, on power, on who has
Mhm.
power, right? And again, where people, someone in my comments was like, he was obsessed with him. She was like paying it. I forget how they put it. And I was like, yes, by her own report, she was in love with him, which is, we expect people when they're in love to be very much like paying attention to every single thing someone is doing. So again, she's not giving you a false report. She's literally, in fact, kind of owning this and being like, yeah, when people, not when they're in a health, like when they are in the physical experience of love, right? They are, you know, what's he doing? What did it mean? Do you think he
Mhm.
likes me? Like,
Mhm.
what? Why are we calling that insane? That's like, I, is he going to
Yeah.
text back? Like, it's the same.
Yeah.
It's,
So, yeah. Oh my, this whole
I
thing.
know.
I wonder if it's gonna blow over. I wonder what's gonna happen. I mean, because I mean, obviously he can't join the conversation whatsoever. I-
And if he
Right.
does, then we've got some real data.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Like, to be clear, ethically, she has done nothing wrong as a patient. I'm just like, clearly, she has done nothing wrong. He, again, has not to us yet, right? If he posts and is like, no, I never, then that will be very clarifying, my friend. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Right.
if he makes a response, we have some validation of,
Yeah.
but yeah, this is not a he said, she said. We shouldn't hear from him. His patient talked about her experience on the internet. I don't know. Patients are allowed to do that. And I'm supposed, I'm going to that's part of how this works.
Mm-hmm.
It's free speech.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if it's slander or libel, he can sue her, which
Mm-hmm.
she said.
Mm-hmm. So where do you go from here with this and your page and your practice and
Oh,
just
10 toes down, really, is where I'm going. Like, this just solidified for me, how deeply important it is to shout until people hear, the reality of what reality is. And um, again, it also just helped me to see like how little the general population knows and how willing they are to do whatever anybody else is doing to keep themselves safe, right? How to fawn. And so
mm-hmm.
we need
Mm,
to have as many people as possible, again, just standing against the invalidation of
mm-hmm.
human beings' experience. And that's in all spaces, right? We're not, that like all his experience too. But again, he's got a entire mental health system backing up his narrative. So,
That's right.
and now the population, of the United States and the world. So I just sort of feel like, be a voice, for the voiceless, be a voice for
Yeah.
the space of silence, and like keep educating people on what trauma looks like and what it actually is, and tell them to shut the fuck up when they're doing harmful actions. Like my whole
Yeah.
platform is, it is loving to stop harm. Just stop the harm.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Diagnose, harm not people. Just try to stop harm.
Mm-hmm. I love it. I'm so glad to have connected with you. Thank you for being
You.
so into this topic and being down to meet so
Oh
quickly.
my gosh.
And where can people, so tell us where, if people want to engage with you further, where can they
Yes.
find you? So on social
So
media and your practice, tell.
yeah, I'm a terrible capitalist. So like there's a website. You can go to my website, www.peoplemakesense.org.
Love it.
And you can sign up for my mailing list. The website is still to come, but you can sign up and get updates about like what's happening, what I'm doing. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, at People Make Sense.
Love
Um,
it.
and I don't currently, because I'm so conscious of power dynamics and power differentials and working with survivors of exploitation,
Hmm.
that I don't take clients from my social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, again, I'm trying to consider how to ethically meet this need and how to show up in this space. And I'm totally for it. But again, like, I don't do that because they have so often been exploited by people
Yeah.
they care about
Yeah.
in positions of power. So I'm protecting them.
Yeah, exactly. So
Uh,
social media, and do you have any goals, like to make educational resources,
oh my
just
God,
to
so
be a
many.
voice? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm off. I might like, I want to have courses. I would like to be able to train both clinicians and institutions about identifying dissociation in kids, right?
Hmm.
Symptoms of trauma. How do we, right? I would love to create like literally, how do we treat dissociation? Um, which again, I think is very much in the body. I have a lot of ideas of that. I want to make a community for survivors where we can have peer-led support groups. We can have connection. There can be a space where it is a shared reality. Um,
Yeah.
so, I got big hopes, and I'm a terrible capitalist and have two kids, little kids. So
Uh-huh.
but
Figuring
we'll
it
get
out.
there. Yeah, we'll get
Yeah.
there. You
Well,
know?
thank you so
Thank you.
much. It was so nice to meet you. And
Awesome.
let's see, people can find this on Apple, on Spotify, on Podbean. I post the video of this on YouTube. And if y'all have any comments, go to my Instagram, TikTok at Codependency Kate. You can also email me at kate@codependencykate.com. My website is not even up yet. I haven't figured that part out. And
I love it. Yeah.
this part of the podcast, like the intro and the end, I'm still getting used to it. When you say I'm a terrible capitalist, I'm like, oh, I just feel it just feels funny to be,
It feels funny, right?
feels
Everyone's like,
funny.
what's your brand? I'm like, me? I don't,
I know.
like, I
It
don't
takes,
know.
yeah,
It's
it's
hard.
tough. It's
It's
tough.
hard.
But
We'll
thanks
get
for
better at
joining
it.
us. These episodes come out every Tuesday. And yeah, we'll see you soon.